So, Mr. Bond, you've confronted me at last in my lair. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Brock Beard from lastcar.info and coming at you for our wrap up show from the Las Vegas race this past weekend. We'll talk all about everything that happened during this race weekend. But before that, I'd like to introduce you to another little fella here that we have here at Last Car headquarters. A couple weeks ago, I showed you Frankie, one of our other dogs here at the house. This is our smallest one. This is Frenchie right here. And he is all of, I don't know, gosh, just a little over 2 pounds, maybe three. He is usually not this shy. He is an absolute ball of energy. If he starts moving around a bit, I may take a pause in the show here to put him back outside here for a bit. But I figured have him join up for the show a little bit tonight. So we got that. But we'll definitely be talking about the action this weekend. Also mentioning at the same time the drawing for the magnet, the magnet that was on the side of the car, that will be up after the show tonight. I'm just going to post that on Twitter as a standalone video so everybody can check that out. So we'll do the drawing there. I have it just off screen here, and we'll do that for tonight. So lots to go over here. You can be okay, buddy? You can be okay? There you go. I'm gonna see if I can sit you down here and see how you do there. Okay. He doesn't sit down very easily. He likes to move around, but while everybody's yep, there you go. He's starting to move around again. All righty. So I may actually put him outside here for a bit. I think he looks a little camera shy here, but figure I always introduce you to some of the critters here in the house here. So as everybody files in here in a bit, we'll go ahead and get into our show here in just a minute. So I'll move the camera up here in just a moment. Oh, it doesn't move much higher. Well, okay, you'll see me stumble around here as I bring him out here. All right, French, let's put you back out, okay? There we go. All righty. So there we go. Okay, so probably with all the stuff to go over this weekend, he probably get a little too squirrely there too. So that's Frenchie, folks. Maybe we'll bring him back on some of these other future shows down the line here too. First and foremost, I'd like to thank every one of you out there that followed me this past week at the Las Vegas track. My first time covering that event. It's I know we had a little bit of everything all weekend in terms of what we saw from each of the races, and we'll certainly go into that tonight. Whew, still out of breath from just last night too. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed covering that event. Thank you to the track staff. They were extremely helpful out there at the Speedway. Thank you to all you guys for following along there on the Twitter account at LastCar on Brock. And also the Patreon members who followed along, patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock. We had a few new people join during the same weekend. So that was fantastic. Got to meet a few of you guys out at the track. Wish I could have met more of you guys there as well. I know there were a couple of people I missed connections on. To them, I apologize. Hopefully, you can see you at the next race I go to, which is going to be Phoenix. We're already starting plans on that for November. And hoping to do a few races a year here and there. So given how things went in Vegas, I'm probably going to cover this one again here too, especially with the next gen car and comparing to the product that we saw this past weekend. Bit of controversy certainly over the weekend, a little bit of everything else. But again, big thanks to those of you guys supporting. I really can't overstate how much help that is, and being able to maybe turn a year where maybe we do 1 or 2 races to maybe 3 or 4. And I like to be able to just get the most out of a race weekend. Sometimes you get a little bit more than we bargained for. There was a little bit of that this weekend for sure. And we'll certainly get into that at the same time here. Another person I have to definitely thank is Lastbro, the person who's always off camera here on these shows here. For those of you that enjoyed the West Series coverage on our what was it, Thursday night, I guess. Feels like it was 2 weeks ago at this point. That was a big thanks to him. He helped. He and I were trading off on driving. He did most of the driving there to get us there. And I didn't think we were going to get there in time for the West race, so I kind of wrote that day off. I didn't even apply for credentials or anything on that. Would have been unnecessary anyway. They give you tremendous access for that. But point remains, fantastic job by him getting us out there. We were able to really see the sights during the weekend as well. And I know he enjoyed himself as well. Well, for a couple other reasons. I'll tell you. Well, actually, I'll tell you right off the bat. Last Pro and I both put money on our Kleenex picks of the week picks that we always post on Twitter, and he picked Denny Hamlin. And so after the race, we actually went back to the sports book on Fremont Street, and he was able to collect on his ticket there. We just put a few bucks, like we both put like $10 on it there, but yeah, he was able to be the big winner on that. So he is certainly flying high and put himself in good points position for the last stretch of our fantasy league here at the same time. So that was a little bit of it too. So big thanks to him certainly as well. A lot to really take in from this weekend. First and foremost, just getting there to begin with. Again, I didn't, our first trip was basically from Sacramento on Wednesday. Let's see. Yeah, it was Wednesday afternoon. That's right. Yeah, because it was Wednesday afternoon, about 3:30 Pacific time. We started heading out. I started posting the pictures there on the Twitter, which I always like to do, getting the names on the magnet and everything. And I hope you guys enjoyed that. We actually got quite a bit of traffic on a few of them for different various reasons. But we came back out there and we got into we drove all the way over to Ely, Nevada, which is in the northeastern corner of Nevada, like really far out. We didn't immediately go down to Vegas. We started up in this corner here. And the problem is when you get on Highway 50, this is where I got this shirt right here. They say it's the loneliest highway in America. And as the tweets I posted that night, when I could get into cell phone range indicated, that is no exaggeration. There's a couple of towns, once you get past Carson City, the capital, off of Lake Tahoe, and you start getting into the desert, there's a stretch of road that basically goes just, horizontal across there. And there's only one gas station out there about the halfway point with about 150 miles of practically nothing on either side. It was pitch black by that point, and but apparently you're driving up into the mountains at that point. So if you don't have enough gas to get to that first gas station, or if you think, oh, well, I'll make it, I don't think even Ryan Newman in 2003 could make that second run there from the gas station there, or that entire stretch from the last bit of civilization there to Ely, Nevada in that sense. So that was a little bit of action there. The other part of it too, once we got over to the Ely section of Nevada, a lot of things were closed, even though it was like I know it was weekday and everything, but a lot of things were closed. And even though we got there maybe about, it was like 9 or 10, it wasn't all that late in the whole scheme of things. But every hotel in Ely was booked. They had about 7 or 8 different hotels out there. They got a Miracle Mile like a lot of these places do. But they were all booked up, and we were starting to think we were gonna probably have to just sleep in the car or something that night. Even though it was getting pretty cold out by that point. The desert gets frightfully cold at night. But the Motel 6 down the street had a couple of rooms open, so we were able to jump on that, and that was basically our first night there. Headed out in the morning, the Ely, the Northern Nevada Railway Museum, I believe it's called, was something that is definitely down in Laspro's wheelhouse there. He's a big rail fan and into model railroads as well. You noticed in the tweets I posted there, we actually checked out a model railroad place in, I believe it was Western Vegas. It was like almost on the border where you're almost out of the town completely. We checked that out, I believe, on Sunday before we got to the track. But that was really cool. That's his hobby. He does N scale, like the really small scale on there. I think I've mentioned that on the show here before. But the Railway Museum was awesome. They have, if you, for those of you that are rail fans out there, I would highly recommend it. Even for being fairly remote, they have basically a huge yard. You see some of the shots I took there. Big switching yard, a lot of different outbuildings, a lot of different active buildings. Not really a remote section at all. In that sense, everything's very much active. And the time we were there, There were people working on at least 2 or 3 of the steam locomotives they had in there, and you get to just walk right up and learn more about the engines and stuff like that. So yeah, the Northern Nevada Railway Museum, definitely one to check out. They do some rides in the evenings as well. Unfortunately, we weren't able to pick that up because we were heading to Vegas by that point afterwards. But on any other trip, if you do like a standalone thing up there, definitely pretty exciting to check that out as well. So we did that in the morning, and again, checked out all the different outbuildings. One thing is actually interesting. Another aspect of this, one of the engines that's being refurbished is actually needed some new, need like a particular part, and it was actually being made at the foundry that we have actually not far from Lascar headquarters here. We actually have an old foundry, a couple of towns over, where they actually work on these different parts. And when we talked to the guys over in Ely, they actually knew what we were talking about. They said that they had it, they were able to fit it into the engine and things like that. I don't know the exact, it was some kind of a grate. I don't know what the exact particular name was, but it was something that they were working on here. And, so that was the same dinner that I actually went to just last week during the Bristol race there. So that's why the coverage on that race is a bit later. But that's where we were out there. The fundraiser for was the whole effort there to keep that place active. So it's good to see some cooperation on both ends between these two different museums and locations and so forth. So yeah, we spent about half a day there. Had a good time checking that out. Stopped by the Love's Travel Stops in Ely, and then headed south. Now by this time it was about midday. And suddenly, it somehow seemed even more remote than it was the night before. I'm sure it probably would have looked the same if we were on the Highway 50 stretch during the daytime instead of the nighttime there. But during the daytime, you are absolutely just on your own. I think I would almost argue it's even more desolate in that sense. There was also, very few gas stations, very few things to look at. It's not really full of tourist traps necessarily. For those of you who haven't had a chance to travel the area there. So again, be advised, if you go out anywhere in like Eastern Nevada or that eastern to southern part, going down between Ely and Las Vegas, you definitely got to make sure you got enough gas and you got enough water in the car and everything. Fortunately, we were able to get down there without incident. We got there in the early evening, really. I guess it was more like late afternoon. But what's interesting about it is you have the mountains over on the side. You're basically just in flat desert in that sense. There's a couple really small towns, basically drive like 20 miles an hour for a couple stretches of it. And then, then there's just absolutely nothing. And then the road kind of weaves into the mountains, and it's some really interesting rock formations. And then all of a sudden you go onto this one part of it and you suddenly start seeing all these power lines. And that's about when you're in like the final approach into Vegas. But the bizarre thing is, other than those power lines, there's really no indication that you're actually heading to something that's as big as Las Vegas. It very much is something that's just still very isolated. And even though, things are as developed as they are, it was still kind of surprising to see. I was expecting to see all kinds of billboards and tourist traps. Nope, nothing on that stretch there. Basically, it was from one Love's Travel Stop to another Love's Travel Stop, maybe about 5 or 10 miles outside of Las Vegas, coming in from the north. So we got in from there. And again, we made great time. At that point I was figuring, well, okay, maybe we'll just kind of take it easy. But really we were there before even the start of the track activity over at the bull ring there. And again, that kind of started our race weekend off there, of course. We stayed over in North Vegas. We decided not to stay on the strip here. That turned out to actually be a good idea because the strip, we were kind of surprised, was a little bit, I don't know. I haven't been to Las Vegas since 2003. And at the time I wasn't old enough to gamble. So I didn't really, there wasn't really much to do. It was just kind of a family trip just to see how it was. I was like 2 months removed from my 21st birthday at that point. But I didn't remember it being, there's still stuff to see, seeing the Hoover Dam and all that stuff. But going on the strip this time, they basically had like the entire street was like being rebuilt. Like there's only one lane either direction, which is ridiculous because it's like, a multi-lane road both ways. And I always pictured, there's going to be people walking around and carrying drinks, and it's going to be this, it's going to be that. Very dark. A lot of places, a lot of buildings weren't lit up. The traffic was terrible. You just couldn't get anywhere. Plenty of parking. At least you can, I wasn't sure what the situation was on that. But we took a trip down there, kind of walked around, and it was just, even though the night was young and it was pretty much on close to a weekend there. I was kind of surprised it wasn't really that lively. Maybe we just caught them on a bad time or something. Even though NASCAR was in town, I figured maybe there'd be something else going on there, but clearly wasn't the case. So we kind of, after this was after the KN or the ARCA West race, we checked it out there. We pretty much went up street to Fremont Street, and that whole area there was much closer to what I imagined the Vegas experience would be like. So that was certainly that part of it too. But yeah, definitely the strip isn't all that it's banged up to be. I was hoping that it would be like, since 2003, the Hangovers come out and all these other things. And I always pictured that, yeah, it was going to be like, but it was like, yeah, not many people out there, a lot of construction. And yeah, there were just some buildings that just weren't finished. I'm sure that's one reason it was dark. We didn't even get down to like where the Luxor and all that stuff was. I think we parked at the Wynn, where I guess they used to have the NASCAR award ceremony a few years ago before they moved it to Nashville. But it was, yeah, just, we spent maybe an hour there, got back in the car, and that's when we stumbled across Fremont Street. And I'd forgotten about that with the whole look over with the lit up like tunnel roof, and you got like 3 different bands going at the same time in intersections. That was great. If you're ever in Vegas, I would recommend, go there at least once and check out some places there too. But that was always good. And actually, well, we're wide of the mark of talking about the racing here. We'll get to that too, but I'm kind of remembering other things from this at the same time. Fremont Street was really cool. Well, another big thing that we wanted to make sure we checked out, I don't think I tweeted pictures of it. Lastbro had been hearing about the Heart Attack Grill, which is at the Fremont on Fremont Street near the end of it there. Right before you get to the Arts District. And we checked that place out. We actually went there right before the truck race. I guess it was right before the truck race. So that's why we were kind of, I was saying I was kind of cutting it close there, but we wanted to make sure we could fit that in there. And it was great. You can get up to like, you get like a half-pound burger, you get up to 8 patties, and they got all these, you have to wear gowns. You have to wear like patient gowns when you go in there. And it almost feels like you're in like the middle of like some kind of eating competition or something. Like it actually kind of makes you a whole, I don't know. It's just a weird experience, but kind of fun at the same time there. So definitely check that out too. And the staff's always fun too. They really get into this whole. It was kind of surreal, I will admit, being somebody that worked in the emergency room, because now you got all these people that are like, cosplaying as like doctors and nurses and stuff, and they got pictures of pills and stuff on the wall, but you're eating a burger. It's kind of like, it's almost hard to, because like I remember like, it just feels weird. It just feels really weird, but it was fun. That was probably one of the crazier things we did over that weekend there. Yeah, that was pretty fun. So we checked that out at the same time. So yeah, I guess long story short, yeah, Fremont Street definitely one to certainly check out there too. Yeah, Hoover Dam is cool too. I see your comment there, Kyle. Yeah, we checked that out there at the same time. So yeah, that was we checked that back in 2003, so we didn't really do that this time around. But we did do Rick Harrison's pawn shop. We checked that out. It has 4 parking attendants these days. So you actually pull up in there, and they actually double check with you. It's like, wait, are you actually here for the pawn shop? Because there's like a whole group of restaurants in the same block next to it, and they got to, you got to check with them and all that. But then, they don't charge for parking and stuff and all that, so we checked that out. There were a couple NASCAR things in there. They just had like, I think a Coast Guard Kevin Harvick car, NASCAR Hall of Fame car from like 2011. I think it was, I didn't recognize who was on there. I didn't know if it was Dale Earnhardt or Bill France or whatever. And then there was a picture of the Las Vegas Speedway on the other wall, and that was about it. Obviously a pawn shop, they're gonna have different things all along the way, but no, I didn't see Chumley or anybody like that. I haven't watched the show in years, so I don't even know. But yeah, that was kind of crazy. So we did that on, gosh, yeah, we did that on, that was Sunday, or maybe it might have been Saturday or Sunday, one of the days on that one. We filled the time pretty good. This was kind of an unusual one because I'm so used to staying at the track all day for each of the days. But when they don't have practice or qualifying, it kind of messes that up. And since our hotel was so close to the track, I felt that we had more latitude to kind of check other things out in the area. One of the things that really took the longest, I would have to say, was visiting the Mob Museum, which is near Fremont Street. It's like between the Fremont Street and the freeway. That was really interesting. I think we spent probably about 2 hours in there. I think that was the one where we were really close. We did that before the Heart Attack Grill, so that was on the Friday before the truck race. Yeah, Friday on that. So we checked that out. That was cool, very comprehensive. We actually had to cut it short a bit. They actually had a bar and they had like 3 floors of exhibits, and then there's like a new bar that's set up like a speakeasy on the ground floor. We should have gone back there. We cut it short so we couldn't go down there. So we get to the Heart Attack, but apparently, yeah, they got great setup in there. It seemed like it was really popular. So if you're interested in that, they got some good exhibits there too. Gosh, so that was kind of the bigger part of kind of the touristy section of all of that. So we were kind of just taking that in. I think those were the big ones. We did the model railroad place. So last bro, check that out. He found some models to work with. Oh, we did the ghost town on the way out. We'll talk about the return trip here after we talk about the races here too. But yeah, it was interesting. It was a good it was a good part of that too. So yeah, we were kind of able to kind of juggle it back and forth. Again, I'm really anxious for them to get practice and qualifying back. I know it's gonna be an issue in Phoenix there as well. But at least in this case, we're able to kind of juggle some stuff around. So hopefully you enjoyed some of the content that came across on that side. We had that side of it there. And we kind of went back and forth between all of that, but we did get there in time for the K&N West, or I keep calling it the K&N, the Arkham and Hard Series West race, which was great. I never been to, certainly not been to any part of the Las Vegas track, and not the Bull Ring either. But great little track there. It's actually probably one of the first actual paved short tracks I've been to. Most times I've gone to short tracks in the area have been dirt ones, but because I've never been to like Irwindale or anything like that before. Certainly seen the West guys before because they come out to Sears Point for their race, and so we saw some familiar faces here, including Bobby Hillis Jr. in his bright yellow car. So I got some great pictures of that there as well. He said he still preferred the orange one and all that. Thought it was interesting. He didn't really have a backstory on that creature logo on the hood. That's basically what we call it, just the creature. It looks like a combination of I don't know, the Blue Beetle and the Guyver or whatever combination of it, but pretty gnarly though. It stands out. He's got on the back of his hauler as well there. He had some close calls out there racing some of these guys back in the pack there. And so that was kind of exciting to see. Really liked the setup that they had at the track, where first of all, Star Nursery, of course, sponsoring the race, the former Kurt Busch sponsor back when he was running the Southwest Tour, and they had one of Kurt's cars there in the infield. They also had a lot of plants decorated around there to give it a really kind of lively feel, and also kind of promoting with the brand. So Star Nursery really was in that on both feet. The greatest thing is they had like this pavement modified race earlier in the night, and the guy that won that apparently said that he was going to retire at the end of the race, which seemed to kind of catch everybody flat-footed. It sounds like I'm kind of exaggerating here, but it kind of played out almost like the clip of AJ Foyt deciding to retire in the middle of qualifying or practice at Indianapolis that one year. He won this race handily, lapped all but like 3 people, and he says, "Okay, well, I've decided this could be my last race and all that," and even the announcers weren't really sure exactly what to do. So that was an interesting moment there for sure. And then you had the main event. What was really cool with that is that you had, first of all, a big field. 23, 24 cars. And they had them all set up at the garage area off of turn 2. But what they did is they had them all line up they had like a little sidewalk or a little small path by the concession stands behind the grandstands. And the cars all started filtering in there after the modified race, and they would all line up 2 by 2 underneath the grandstands because it would loop back around to the garage entrance. And then they just stopped there. Drivers hopped out and they signed autographs. Fantastic. I mean, the kind of stuff that you would just never see in the Cup Series or any of the National Series these days, but very much a throwback in that sense. So you got Lastbro got one of Hillis's signatures there because he has like I gotta actually. I'm gonna see if I can get him to bring the card by there because he has a great graphic there of the creature and stuff like that. But yeah, they had a great deal there with all the different drivers out there. You got to talk to them and see what's going on. The thing I thought was interesting though is that when they had the 21 car out there, it seemed like they had some kind of problem. Like the entire field of cars was out there except for his. Turned out they were just making some last minute adjustments there to get the 21 car going again. So thanks to the crewman there that was speaking to me. I wasn't wearing my uniform at the time. I was just wearing my Josh Balicki shirt and, and shorts there at the time. So I wasn't really prepared to work. I was planning on just like, okay, I'm going to watch this as a fan. I'm just going to just enjoy this at a distance. But it's hard to turn that off, especially when you're at the track. And even though I mean, it would have been great if I did an entry list thing because I would have loved to follow up on the story of the female drivers in the field. That was really exciting. Unfortunately, a lot of them had bad luck, but it was cool to have them all in there. And, who knows, who's going to work their way up the ranking and everything. But they were all getting a lot of attention, certainly on the grid with, people going around and collecting hero cards and stuff like that. Yeah, and then, it didn't matter if they were a big team or a small team or whatever. And of course, Taylor Gray there with the David Gilliland entry, even though he wasn't in the Truck Series race, and probably would have done pretty well given how well Tanner did in the Friday race before some misfortune in the event. Taylor was, of course, took the win there, but it was pretty hard fought there along the way. Yeah, but again, it was, and again, the other thing too is since I'm so used to seeing these cars on a road course, it's really hard to tell like how fast exactly they would be or, how loud they would be on a short track. I mean, they were deafeningly loud on that track. I probably should have brought my, I probably still felt it in my ear by the time we got to the end of the weekend on Sunday there. Yeah, really, really exciting race there. I think you had some very early misfortune. You had I believe the David Mayhew, the car that Mayhew usually drives, not owns. Had some damage at the very beginning there, dropped off the pace. I got some footage of that on the Twitter account there. More of this will be covered. I believe our Ben Schneider is doing a feature on that race there. William Saki, our staff writer, is going to be doing an article on the IndyCar race at the IndyCar finale from Long Beach this week too. So I got that. I got those articles to post here tonight. So look forward to that content as well. Yeah, I mean, really interesting stories. It seemed like there were some real comers and goers there working their way up there. Whoever was in the 4 car was having, getting spun out here and there. They did a really cool driver intro thing where they dropped these like smoke bombs, these bright orange, or smoke canisters in the corner there and had all these guys rolling out of the smoke. I mean, that was pretty awesome. They ran out of smoke and put some more cans there. So the people at the back of the field had some more smoke to come out of there. So that was pretty neat. Just really enjoyed that. It was almost, Lastbro and I, we were about halfway up the stands, a little bit ways off of turn 4 there, and there's really not a bad seat in the house. So the Bull Ring, great facility there. Food wasn't too expensive. People were really cool there. So definitely enjoyed checking that out. Last place runner was Paul Petroncelli. He was out there very briefly. I believe much like at Sears Point. I think that they've had the one that Son's running in the 33 car, and the 33 ran pretty well at Sears Point, if I recall. And then this one here was kind of a similar situation there, but fell out in the very early laps. And the tricky part too is, of course, getting used to where the garage entrance was, because the garage entrance was in turn 1. So basically, a car would push high, run off the pace, and try to go off in that section. And that happened very quickly with, I believe it was the 31, the 19, and a couple other guys there. So I haven't seen the broadcast yet, but I imagine from the angles that they were working with, they had a lot of cameras set up outside the track. There was like nothing in the infield. I mean, there were cars themselves cutting that corner off during caution. So it would have been really hazardous in that case. That's kind of how that was laid out. So that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. I'd be willing to certainly check that out again, and kind of see more of these regional series and check those out going forward. So that was pretty cool. I'm just looking at the other lineup there. It was Josh Phanopoulos. That was the one, the 21 car that started 23rd in the lineup there and finished in the 9th spot. He actually had some pretty good damage there from a couple of those incidents, but had a decent run there. There was a little bit of a fire from, I believe it was the 6 car. I believe it was Huddleston's car. Everybody in the crowd was like, "Oh, there's a fire! There's a fire!" It's just like a little bit. I mean, it wasn't too big. It was a little bit of smoke coming off the car, but there was. I mean, certainly you could tell who was really using the brakes up. Very much like you see at a Bristol or a Martinsville or anything. 38 car that was running towards the back of the lineup. His were like red all the way around by the end, and we kept waiting for like something to fail on that thing. But actually, I think he got a decent finish. Stafford Smith was 12th in that one. So kudos to him on that. Interesting lineup there for sure, and interesting competitors. So I enjoyed checking that out, and good stories, a good way to kick off the weekend, certainly for sure. Mark Bancroft, I see you're talking about the Joey Gase yet. No, we haven't talked about that yet. I'm kind of going chronologically through this. I know I usually start with the Cup Series and kind of walk it back. I think it's a little bit easier for me to remember if I just kind of go forward from here. But we're finally up to the race weekend, and we'll certainly commit focus to that. Ow. So let's see. All right, where we go? Oh, hang on. Okay. So the Truck Series. So we'll jump into a couple of things from these races here. First of all, congratulations to Christianecus for the win. I'm not sure if I said much about it during that weekend because, of course, I usually look at the other end of the field. But it can't be overstated. I mean, that's a really cool story for him. Not just for the fact that he also managed to lead a Thor Sport 1 through 4 effort at this track of all places. But fantastic job by him. I remember when he made his debut with Kyle Busch Motorsports, which, it sounds like I'm describing something in the distant past. Probably was only, like 2 years ago. Seemed to have a good run at Gateway. Unfortunately, didn't work out. And he's been trying to do some different deals here. Now sharing the ride with Grant Enfinger. I know there's mixed feelings about that because Enfinger himself has had a fantastic season in spite of hopping rides a lot. Echoing drivers like Bobby Allison or Joe Weatherly, who were very successful in NASCAR despite swapping teams in midseason, sometimes even more than just 2 different rides. Definitely something to be applauded there for both of them, for both Eckes and for Enfinger. But good to see Eckes get a first win here. Seemed like it was a real relief for him for sure, and certainly understandable in that sense. Chris Hacker was your last place finisher in that. And I did feature that in the article. And in the article, I did say that his mother said that he wasn't available for comment. Now, that is the case, but there was a miscommunication there, as I mentioned at the same time. I had followed the number 45 into the garage area after it was pushed back following the damage that was suffered in the early incident. And apparently the clock expired. Team pushed the truck back. And this was kind of a common theme for really all 3 of the races. Spending a great deal of time just kind of waiting for him to come out or waiting for him to come back from the infield care center. His mother was there and somebody else, but I was waiting for him to come out. He just wasn't coming out. Eventually I talked to her, and she made it sound like he was really upset and he didn't really want to talk at the moment. At that point, I was just like, okay, well, I'm not really going to push it, but. I introduced myself to her, and she talked about the fact that he was going to make another attempt at Martinsville, and that's when I was posting about that. I was like, well, he's declined an interview, and I just left it at that. I know people kind of jumped on that, make it sound like he was. I was a little bit iffy about that because I didn't want to make it sound like he was like really, really upset, or he really didn't want to talk to an interviewer, or he was rude about not being interviewed. That was not at all the case. And I really wanted to make sure that was clear, that was not what was happening. Again, I never, met him yet. In fact, he actually reached out very quickly after the race. I think even before the race was over with, and talked about arranging an interview. And we're actually still in the process of doing that. So I'm hoping to do that and perhaps do a follow-up article to get the rest of the story on that. But yeah, an unfortunate deal there for him, driving for Nice's effort. Dropping out in the early laps, but these things do happen, and he's of course looking forward to his next run at Martinsville and going forward from there. But that was kind of the big thing. The Neon Garage is set up in such a way that it used to be that I guess when you had multiple series at the same time, everybody used every side of it. But the trucks, it was such a bizarre arrangement. It was very hard to get used to where everybody was set up because the truck series was basically two parts of the V, the lower parts of the diamond there from behind the media center. So you had, and Hackers was the last one on the right from the turn 1 and 2 side. So it wasn't too difficult to find him in that sense. The Xfinity Garage, however, was way over in turns 3 and 4 at these other buildings. I thought they were just being used for something else. They were, if you had somebody that was falling out of that race, and that was certainly the case on Saturday, it was quite the trek to just get the car over there. And that ended up being kind of a thing that was happening at that point. But that was certainly part of that too. This leads us, of course, to the first of several serious accidents that happened in turns 1 and 2 during the weekend. This, of course, being the Sheldon Creed and Chandler Smith accident. Just as surprised as the rest of you. In this particular case, I was in the media center at the time that it happened. And, I was just finishing up from checking on Hacker and coming back in there and kind of getting a head start on the article. And just wondering what on earth happened with Creed and so forth. They had that one angle where he clearly seems to accelerate the truck there and getting into the pileup. And Mike Joy was very right to bring up the serious accident that happened between Larry Gunselman and Dario Franchitti at Talladega in 2008, an accident that ultimately curtailed what was already a challenging NASCAR transition for Franchitti at the time. You had a very scary accident in that case. It's unfortunate. It's a mistake. People always do make mistakes, but that's an unfortunate one to have happen there. And thankfully it wasn't more serious than it was. Unfortunately, that ends up kind of being a theme of this entire weekend here as well. Eliminated both of them. Tyler Ankrum involved in it as well. I mean, he was really the one that started it there when he spun up into the outside wall. Just kind of a very surprising wreck. I mean, Vegas has always been a very aggressive truck series race. I think we talked about that after the Bristol show here, but it certainly lived up to that. I think that it actually put on a pretty competitive race. A lot of comers and goers through the field, but unfortunately, a lot of kind of craziness happening in other ways there, and that tangle, of course, happening in turns 1 and 2 is a perfect example of that. One person I would have liked to interview, I didn't get around to it there because we were kind of coming in like right before the race started. I would have liked to talk to Keith McGee more about this deal where apparently he had worked with a professional gambler to try to turn some money into enough sponsorship money to get a ride. Seemed like it was a cool deal. Unfortunately, he ends up flagged off the track for running too slow in the 49, but not until after he climbed out of the bottom 5. So there's something to be said for that. Again, it's a bit of endurance here that works out one way or the other. But yeah, in terms of the truck series post race there, I wasn't able to catch up to him on that. Who I was able to catch up to was a very upset Tyler Hill after that accident on the very last lap. Now, apparently, I'm hearing that the Fox broadcast didn't show the accident or didn't really follow up on that. I don't see how they missed this, but now then again, if you're just a person just standing there, I was just as surprised as anybody else. The 56 rolled right past me, utterly beat to heck on both sides. They kind of had 2 lanes of traffic there and had a 3rd lane open up for him to roll by. And he stopped not far from me because I was by the garage entrance at this point. Really unfortunate. He rolled in there. The radiator was busted. You could hear water hissing out of the front of the thing. Luckily, he was okay. I mean, that was certainly the important thing. But apparently, a tangle with Chris Wright at the end of the race there tore up the last 1.5 mile track that the Hill Motorsports team had in their arsenal. Now, luckily, this final stretch of the season doesn't have any more 1.5 miles for those guys. But at the same time, I mean, it's a small effort. They had no sponsorship on the truck. And I was unable to reach Chris Wright for a comment on that. That, again, much like the Chris Hacker one, was not because it was declined. I just didn't follow up on that. In that particular case, I couldn't find him, couldn't get the quote. So I did reach out to the team to try to get a quote. As of this moment, I haven't heard back yet. Hopefully we'll get some more information from here. But now, as it's about a few days later, I'm not really holding my breath on that as they're now looking ahead to their next venue. Well, gosh, at Talladega this week. So hopefully we'll get some more information on that, but it sounds like it was just an unfortunate racing deal and unfortunately had more significantly adverse effect for the 56 team. And you hate to see anybody tear up equipment, but especially a smaller organization there. So I definitely thank Tyler for speaking to me under difficult circumstances there, and put that in the article there as well. So there you go. Oh yeah, Talladega Super Speedway. Sorry, the dog was here at the beginning. If you watch the very beginning of this video, it is absolutely there. So I know it seems like clickbait, but he's definitely there at the start. So if you want to cue this back, I don't blame you. Yeah, he was fidgeting a bit, so he's back outside. So he is definitely in this. So yeah, so again, the Truck Series, a little bit of everything. Again, great job by Christian on the victory. Let's see some other runs. Brett Holmes, I believe, is the other one I spoke with after the race. 11th place finish, trying to get a top 10. He wasn't necessarily jubilant over the effort. I think he was a little bit just disappointed he didn't get the top 10. But still a good effort for himself, even though other drivers in the 32 have had some good runs, especially a good turnaround after they were basically flirting with being the last car feature at Bristol. It was a good turnaround for them in this case. Let's see. Chris Wright ends up one spot ahead of Tyler Hill in the 16th spot. Danny Bone in 18th. CJ McLaughlin did a lot better than I was expecting. I know he's had some struggles in the Xfinity Series in particular. Seemed like those were continuing even on Saturday. But in this Truck Series race, they're driving for Josh Rial, climbing from 30th on the grid to finish in 20th. So a decent run there. Just one lap off the pace. I think he's the second, third, fourth driver, one lap down. So good effort there for him on that. Howie DiSavino the third, obviously the big story with him coming in, of course, the tragic passing of his mother, Dawn. Her name on the roof of the truck. DiSavino finishing in the 26th spot there, finishing the race under power. So still trying to get some better runs there out of it, as he's got his partial schedule with Jordan Anderson's team. So great effort by him under very difficult circumstances there. Finishing ahead of several of really all the GMS guys that all struggled. Even Jack Wood pulled behind the wall really, and I think it was about 5 or 6 laps to go. It was pretty close to the finish. And again, that was about where I was standing. There was 2 main garage entrances, and the one coming off of turn 4, the first one, was where Jack Wood pulled behind the wall and rounded out the group there. Listed out with crash damage actually after 114 laps there. Just ahead of Haley Deegan, listed out for the same reason. John Hunter Nemechek seemed like he was going to be a shoo-in to make the next round here, had or at least handily take the victory. But in this particular case, electrical issues, sound like a really bad sputter, but they fixed the issue as best they could. One of the restarts, he almost runs over about the first 2 or 3 trucks in front of him there, and could have had a very serious incident in that case. Fortunately, able to avoid that. But he does finish many laps down in the 33rd spot there. Carson Hocevar, a bit off the pace in this time around after a bit of controversy there as well. Because between John Hunter Nemechek, whose truck stalled on the back straightaway with this electrical issue, and then fired back up coincidentally once the caution dropped, and then you have Hocevar over this spin, and then him getting penalized and Nemechek not. Make your judgment as you will. I don't really have additional information on that. It seemed like there were a few people in the media center. I don't know who exactly. They were saying, "Hey, park him, park his ass." So I don't know where that came from, but it was definitely being vocalized. So any of you guys yelling at your TV at that time during the race, if not during all of that, that was certainly a part of it too. So an unfortunate deal there for him. Hope to see him bounce back well at the same time. During all this same activity, of course, there was the reveal of the new Toyota for the Truck Series next year. Entertaining ad, kind of ugly truck. That seems to be the consensus for most people. So I'd have to kind of agree. I wasn't really there for the immediate reveal of it there, but I did see it in the fan zone there by Sunday. I kind of like the contours they're doing on the side of the truck, but I mean, it seems like they just want to put it's like today's Lego sets. They just want to put as many decals on the front of these things as possible. And not all of them have the nicest shape to them. They just kind of look kind of all over the place. The Fords have already kind of looked kind of clumsy now. The Chevys are about the only ones I think that have a kind of nice, clean look to them. But even they have kind of that weird. Well, actually, I was about to say it was bad that they have that kind of notch in the front, but then again, that's kind of close to the way the trucks used to look, even back in the early '90s when you had those really blocky looking Chevy Silverados out there back when the series started. So it's kind of a nice throwback there. But yeah, I don't know. It's like the next gen car. It's going to look better when it has a decent paint job on it. But Toyota, once again, just like with their next gen car, it's like, I mean, okay, it's not bad, but it's it's a little off. So I don't know. We'll see what happens on that. Tanner Gray seemed like he was doing okay. Ends up in the 23rd spot. At the end, he had a bit of fender damage there towards the end. Brett Moffitt had a real struggle there. Gosh, I lost count of how many times Moffitt came down pit road with the left front smoking there. He ends up back in the 25th spot there. And what was originally going to be Josh Berry's relief driver as Berry would run the late model race in Martinsville. That, of course, changed with the vacancy in the JR Motorsports #1 car. And that had a story of its own that we'll certainly get into next as we talk about the Xfinity Series race. Let's see. Anything else on this circuit here? If you have any questions from the weekend in general or something I'm missing here, definitely make sure to mention it, and we'll jump into that here too. All righty. So, yeah, actually, let's go ahead and go right into it. So, in the Xfinity Series, Josh Berry did take the victory, and rather dramatically, too. It kind of reminded me of how Allgaier was trying to get something going with Kyle Busch there at the Texas race that we were covering earlier this year. But this time, Berry getting up there and hanging on to it there at the finish. Another great effort there. I believe what now is second Xfinity Series win. Now driving for multiple different teams in all three of NASCAR's series. Really has become one of the biggest stories, almost competing for the biggest story of this year, depending on how the Cup Series championship plays out this season. Continually surprising. Really speaks to JR Motorsports, Dale Jr.'s effort in driver development and picking talent. Certainly found a good one here, as if there was ever any doubt here. I think at this point, Josh Berry is kind of in the same situation that Tom Brady was in when he was playing the Super Bowl there for the Buccaneers. It's like, what more does this guy have to do to impress you? I think at this point now, very interesting to see, and good to see for the one team too. I hate it for Michael Annett. It stinks when you have somebody that, first of all, the injury happening in the first place, trying to come back, perhaps not 100%, and trying to make the playoffs, not getting there. Annet's had some good runs here and there. But again, it's just a situation where, you try to get a driver in there that's going to get the victory. And in this case, that was certainly the situation. So kudos to him on that. Did get to talk to Eric Estep and Darian Gilliam over at the start of the race there. So that was pretty neat. I ran into them at the start of before the start of the race, the Xfinity race, coming up pit road, and it was cool. Everybody's very friendly and everything. I was like, hey man, just get to your car. Don't waste your time talking to me, because of course by that point it was pretty close to the start of the race. Real exciting to get anybody that's involved in YouTube and NASCAR and younger fans out there getting more exposure. Apparently this deal had been in the works really since last summer, and it kind of took a gamble on it being a playoff race and the chance of the 51 being in there. Clements now coming into this race, completing, I believe they said it was the most laps of any other Xfinity Series full-time driver this year. And one of his first, if not the first, DNFs ended up resulting from this particular race, situations outside his control. Again, a great performance, but hopefully he can bounce back from it. Very nearly finished in last place, ultimately decided by the same situation that Eric Almirola and Matt DiBenedetto had at Pocono just a few years ago in the Cup Series, where both of them tangled on the first lap and then followed each other down to the garage area. In this particular case, Clements went into the garage area first, followed by Joe Graff Jr. Both of them, their clocks expiring about the same time. Both of them positioned about the same spot on pit road, so that when they entered in that order, 07 ended up ranked behind the 51, even though the 51 went in first. So a little bit of an interesting angle. It doesn't always happen all the time. It was kind of interesting to see it happen live, much like with the situation that Bailey Curry and Jordan Anderson had during the Xfinity race at the Texas track earlier this year. So again, this, of course, the accident being mentioned here was, again, another serious accident in turns 1 and 2. This on a 5-wide gamble there for 11th spot on a restart. Jeb Burton and Riley Herbst apparently in the center of it there. One zigs, the other zags, and suddenly you got one car spinning up into traffic and nobody else can avoid it. And J.J. Yaley, for example, who was cool enough to accept an interview there after the accident, mentioning that he got run into the back of by the number 26, Dylan Lupton. And it was just on from there. It was just kind of a big mess through that. Pretty surprising. Lastro was in the stands there in turns 1 and 2, or actually, I guess it would be more off turn 1, and it's just a swath of smoke. You can just see the very beginnings of the accident, and then after that, it's just nothing but smoke, and you're just blocked in. And that once it dissipates, you just have all the cars sitting still. It's just kind of weird from that view. But good to see everybody walk out of that okay. In spite of some very hard hits in that situation there, and several drivers knocked out of contention from all ends of the field. Even Alex Labay for DGM Racing, Riley Herbst, of course, with this the Biaggi Denbest or Stuart Haas effort there now in the 98 car. So many other cars in there that they're all kind of coming in from all directions. Now, again, the Xfinity Series garage is well far away in turns 3 and 4 there. Luckily, at the time of the accident, I didn't really get a good view of it. The cars kind of just disappeared out of my view past the start-finish line. But then you could, of course, hear kind of a gasp from the crowd at the time that it happened. And then suddenly you got all these other cars coming down pit road, dragging sparks and everything. Felt more like Bristol or even a super speedway in that sense there. Following the 51, the 07 into the garage area. Eric was down in the garage area pretty soon after that. I tried following him in there. Security guard turned me around, so I couldn't get back over onto that side because there were two sides there where you had kind of the big teams and then the small teams here. So I got turned back around. That's just part of the media thing. You just kind of show the tag, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I try not to again kind of argue or fight these things because that's just never going to work out well for anybody. But I just kind of let them do their thing on that side and went back over to the smaller team side. I was hoping to get a quote from Joe Graff at that point because I could see the leaderboard in that corner and see that the 07 was behind the 51. I saw Graff come in. At that point, I was talking with another person. I was actually talking with the PR person that was representing Chris Hacker the day before, and I was glad that he was okay with the way that I handled responding to or providing updates to what was going on with Hacker that night. That he didn't, outright refuse to be interviewed. There was just, he was just. It was just a lack of communication on that end and so forth. And that he was, look, even if somebody is going to be upset about, a wreck and I'm certainly used to it. I certainly don't expect to go into the garage area and find somebody happy with falling out for one reason or another. But that was certainly a situation where, look, I mean, I'm just going to take it easy and say, look, take it easy on the guy. I mean, no matter what age you are, your experience, it's going to suck if you're, out there trying to get the best run you can, especially at a track like Vegas, where depending on what series you're in, it's really wide open. If you're knocked out, I mean, that's an opportunity that's missed. This was certainly the case with Yaley, specifically mentioning, the fact that he had ECR engines under the hood, or an ECR engine under the hood of that car. And the discussion was that, really, that's not a typical thing for that particular program. And we've seen Yaley have some good runs this year. I don't know if they were all with ECR engines or if he's just been able to get some good runs out of even lesser equipment there. But this was an effort that they really looked to have a good performance, had come from 33rd into the top 20. And unfortunately, that was exactly where that wreck happened. And there was just nowhere to go. And that was just one of many stories out there in that part of the field. So an unfortunate deal for him. Big thanks to Yaley for speaking to me. I know that that's a driver that I always seem to run into one time or another, whether it's at Sears Point or Phoenix or any of these other venues there. So always like to take time to talk to him. But certainly hope that some of these interviews will be for some of his better runs. Certainly with his run at Phoenix this past spring, hopefully we'll see something going on there this fall. As of this moment, his plans for Phoenix are still coming together, so we don't have any other information on that at the moment. So a big wreck there. I stood out in the sun a little bit too long at that point, waiting for Graf to come by. He was one of the last, if not the last, checked and released from the infield care center. I usually don't wait by the infield care center, especially in this case, because the infield care center was over in turns 1 and 2, and there's only like one gate that could get you back over there. So it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to stay here and wait for him to come to me. And by that point, we just had I was talking with somebody else. He went in the hauler and he didn't come back out. And there was that. So mea culpa on that. But I'm glad I was able to get Yaley's quote at least to get somebody that was involved in the accident. By the time that wreck was cleared up and you had the rest of the race run, it seemed pretty clean for at least towards the end of it. Again, decent competition, seeing Barry really work on the leaders to get up to the front. One of the drivers I did catch up with at the finish was Bailey Curry. Big thanks to Dominic Aragon for taking a picture of me interviewing him after the race that I posted yesterday. I thought it was fantastic that he had a good run in the number 15 car, which didn't have any sponsorship and did have a bit of damage to the nose of it. Curry has been really trying to make ends meet. Last time I had seen him was when they had that very frustrating electrical issue back at Texas with Mike Harmon's car, where Harmon kicked the battery underneath the war wagon there. This time, much happier tidings. And these are things that I really like to look forward to in covering these races here. And so catching up with Curry there on pit road, it was good to talk about him finishing in that spot. Looked like he was going to potentially even finish 11th until a couple cars slipped by him. I almost thought that there was like something worse had happened there because it seemed to drop back out of that spot so quickly. But then, of course, checking the timing scoring after the race, he still had a solid finish, both for him and for the JD Motorsports team. We'll see which rides he's going to stay with in these final few rounds of the season. How much of it's going to be in the 74, how much of it's going to be the 15, and how much of either of them are going to be sponsored. I'm sure it was a difficult decision for the Harmon team because I thought, really, frankly, last year both Weatherman and Curry were one of the best stories in the Xfinity Series from having just some breakout runs that time, much like Gray Galding and Brandon Brown had done before them in the year before. But unfortunately, this year there's been some good moments, much like Yaley had a good run at Phoenix, but then this turnover at turn at Texas didn't go very well. But then something much better at another mile and a half here at Vegas. So that was a good story to see. Tommy Joe Martins, I wish I could have caught up to him. I didn't catch him after the race while I was talking with Curry, but a great run for him. Saw Ryan Vargas after the race. Brad Perez was still there too. He had stayed over an extra day there after finishing up with the Rackley War team on Friday. It was actually helping Vargas's team. I think it was Vargas's team. Yeah, push the 6 car back in there. So good to see them make their efforts back out there. A lot of returning faces out there. That's the Xfinity Series really has a great group of drivers in there and plenty of ones to look at there at the same time. So that was another one to look at. Big kudos to Ty Dillon. I want to really kind of take a moment to congratulate this resurgence that Ty Dillon has had this year. If you think back to this past spring, he was very candid about the depression that he'd been dealing with and the frustrations that he's had driving the Toyotas, even the high-powered Toyotas with Joe Gibbs racing cars. I believe even the last time at Vegas, if I remember correctly, he had one of those accidents that dropped him out in the early laps. But since he's been driving for Our Motorsports and this time around in Jordan Anderson's car, great runs. Looked like he had even an outside shot at taking the win at one point. The 31 car getting their first laps led for the 31 team. Absolutely fantastic. So that was good to see. As much as I'm not a big fan of Cup guys getting in Xfinity rides, I certainly know that there's a world of difference between somebody like Kyle Busch or somebody of that caliber coming to the Xfinity Series and being a start and win guy versus a guy like Ty Dillon who lost a Cup Series ride and is now trying to kind of reinvent himself in his career or just try to get his confidence back. And I think that's certainly been the case that we've seen this year out of him. And hopefully we see much more of that in the days and weeks ahead here. So that'll be really good. Let's see here. Algar, Gregson, Cindric, a lot of familiar faces up in the top part of the field here. But let's see. Ryan Sieg, once again, having kind of bad luck on a restart there. Blaine Perkins in the 20th spot. Even him, I think he ran a race at Phoenix or it was Martinsville or something like that earlier this year. They're getting some solid runs too. That might be, I mean, hopefully he runs Phoenix again. I'd like to kind of interview him too and kind of get more information on what's going on with that program. David Starr ran a clean race, going from 38th on the grid to finish 21st. It's a great run for him and the MBM team. Mason Massey, the 23rd spot for BJ McLeod's effort. Jade Buford a bit further back in the 26th spot. Matt Jaskell parachuting into the track. That was a really cool deal there for the MBM team. I talked to Carl about that on pit road, and he was just thanking his lucky stars that he wasn't the one that had to jump out of the helicopter before the race. But really cool. Jaskell was actually getting a lot of good media attention that weekend. And hopping out from a stationary helicopter is certainly a great way to certainly do that. Jaskell is actually being interviewed in the Neon Garage before even getting in the helicopter, and then parachuting in and getting into the car. So he was very candid about recognizing the fear when he feels it, but just kind of embracing it and just kind of pushing through it. And that's kind of his deal. I guess he's the latest Stanton Barrett type or something like that. But it seems like he's really supportive of the team too. I know one picture I tweeted on Sunday was Jaskell actually stayed over to the Sunday race and was actually helping the team load the car. Right before the picture that I took, he was actually pushing the war wagon onto the truck there. So a lot of these drivers, we saw this out of Jeb Burton a few years ago when he drove for BK Racing. These guys, their job doesn't end when the checkered flag drops. They're able to get back out there and do the best they can. And that was certainly the case with him. Let's see. Yeah, but a lot of drivers eliminated in that big lap 31 pile up there. But yeah, great win for Josh Berry once again. And again, the next chapter of a story that has been really entertaining this year, and hope to certainly see more of that as he goes into his new deal for next season. All righty. So let me get into. Let's certainly get into the big story here, and we'll be very. I'll probably go ahead and lead with this. So in the Cup Series race on Sunday, and so we are now going to absolutely talk about the Joey Gase situation. First and foremost, I want to make very clear. I am very happy and relieved that he is, that he was checked and released from the local hospital that he was sent to on Sunday night, that he is apparently now being evaluated further in Charlotte. I actually talked with Alicia Cope earlier today, and she was looking for updates on that too. I don't have any other information on his being checked up in Charlotte, but hopefully that's going as well. That was definitely a challenging story to follow for quite a number of reasons. As one can imagine. And certainly what happened in the immediate aftermath, of course, that certainly has to be talked about too. So Joey Gase at the very beginning of the race seemed like he was going to be the last place contender early on. His car was very much off the pace right from the start of it. Even when Yaley had to do his pass-through penalty, it seemed like Yaley was able to get around the 15 relatively quickly, and that was helped by the 15 making an unscheduled stop for a really bad vibration in his car. This seemed at the time even kind of reminiscent of the problem that Juan Montoya had at Daytona in 2012, where you feel like something is off and you can't exactly tell what exactly that is. That's got to be a terrifying feeling, and especially at any track, but particularly a 550 horsepower track where you are matting the gas all the way around just to keep your momentum up and trying to keep the pace going no matter what. Not too different from a super speedway in that case. Gase was still running towards the back of the pack. And I was talking with another fan there on pit road there when the 66 went to the garage area. This was about 80 laps into the race. By this point, Yaley had dropped to within a lap of dropping behind Gase for last place. I didn't see the 66 go to the garage area, but it was clear when he wasn't coming back around, he was back there. So at that point, I went back down into the garage area, and pretty much at the same spot where Hacker was parked was where the 66 was. I didn't bother Yaley because at that point I already interviewed him on Saturday. I didn't want to, it felt like too much to do 2 interviews in a row on that. And especially when it turned out that it was a mechanical issue on the 66. Again, big thanks to Carl Long for the interview on that. I thought he gave a great, kind of reminded me of Alan Kowicki, actually. Great breakdown as to what the exact mechanical issue was, why this happened, why that happened. So big thanks to Carl for doing that. He actually, and he was really patient with me too. I'll mention this as an aside. During my interview, I had seen that the rims on the 66 car were from DGM Racing, and I was going to ask him about it, and I had that as my last question, and then I just completely blanked. I was just like, okay, what's my question? And Carl was he was so cool about it. He just stood there. He just waited for me to get it. And I was like, I got it. And then I asked him. He told me more about that. So kudos to Carl. As if there was ever any doubt, as you've seen in the Rise of the Field Fillers episode, really cool guy. No problems there. So this was lap 90 at this point. Lap 90 was when Carl got on the radio, and there was a relay from NASCAR. The 66 had dropped out of the field, dropped out of the race. So I had heard in the background the cars restarting, and I was over on, again, the turn 1 and 2 side. So I didn't have, so I would have ordinarily, you would think, have a pretty good view of what happened with the Gase situation. I heard the cars restart. I heard them slow back down again. I wasn't clear what exactly had happened. I didn't see any. I mean, Rick Ware's trailer was not far from the 66, so I had no indication of what had happened really at that point. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess they're under caution. Maybe it's debris or something. So I finished up my interview with Carl and went back up to the media center and saw reports that the 15 car was out of the race. Didn't see anything on the broadcast or any clear indication that anything anything serious had happened to that point. But then clearly you look at the leaderboard and you see the 15 cars out of the race. There's some discussion about it a little bit in the broadcast, and it's like, okay, so at that point, I'm getting something to drink, going back out to the garage area. And it's like, okay, well, let's take another look here and see what's going on here with the 15 car. So at that point, went back down to the garage area, and the 15 car was was parked in there, and it was clear that that there had been a real serious accident. I mean, the rear of the car was destroyed. There was the crew was visibly concerned. I think they were working very slowly. They were all talking with each other. And I at the point I didn't really know how serious the accident had been. Certainly from the damage, it didn't look like the car had rolled. So it was like, okay, well, thankfully it wasn't that. So at that point, I went back into the same mode that I had with the Truck Series race and the Xfinity race. Like, okay, well, I'm just going to stand here and I'll just wait and see when Gase comes by, and I'll get a quote from him and find out what's going on. Hopefully he's all right. And we get email updates in the media center when the drivers checked and released from the media center. That's why you get those tweets there saying that this person's checked and released, this person's checked and released. And so I'm waiting to get that message, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll just stand here for a bit. And while I was there, I took pictures of the car. Of course I did. That's what you guys pay me to do. I'm here to do that. And now, of course, being mindful that, I by this point I had known that, wheel had broken off and it sent him into the outside wall. And that's, scary enough on the face of it. But of course I know at the same time that when you have one of these wrecks, or when you have a car in the garage area, you don't want to reveal the hubs. The hubs are like the last frontier of, I guess, whatever these teams can do and all that stuff. So when I put the pictures up for the brief time that they were up, you'll notice that when I got to the driver's side of the car, I put an icon over the hub, and I was like, okay, so this was certainly the situation at that point. The it was clear that, yeah, something serious had happened. Gase still wasn't back out. We didn't have the report. The reports usually come in pretty quick. Even the big pile up on Saturday, it was clear. But I had enough time to just, okay, I'm fiddling with this, fiddling with that, and trying to get it so it covers the hub. And then I post a tweet, and it starts getting up there. Now, well, I don't know how much more to really say from here at this point, but you can probably guess what happened next. So I did say that I was asked to remove the pictures from the Twitter account there, but that was definitely the first indication that potentially something serious had happened at that point. And I was asked if I had posted the pictures. And I'm not going to lie to the guy. I mean, he's like, yeah, I did. And I was going to show him. I was like, look, see, I didn't post the hub because I know that's your thing. He's like, look at this. And it's like, it was made, I will put it this way. It was made clear that they did not want that up there. And I was like, okay, no problem. No problem. Okay. I'm not here to cause any problem for anybody. And that was clear. But certainly the way that was expressed, I mean, there was concern. There was real concern there. And given the fact that, I've done research on, situations where things didn't turn out that well, it was clear that, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue with the guy. I mean, clearly it's like, and that was kind of the first indication that was like, okay, well, see what else is going on in here. So at that point I was like, okay, well, look, I'm not gonna try to get an interview from Gase. At this point, I didn't even know he was in the hospital. So I was just like, well, okay, look, they're clearly concerned. I'm just gonna drop it. So I just kind of went off from there and went back to the media center. So at that point, basically by the time I got to the media center, that's when the word broke that he had been sent to the hospital. Now, all this now it's thankful that, he's since been, released, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this, that he was checked and released from there. But yeah, I'll admit that was scary. That was certainly scary in that moment there. And it was, it was kind of one of those certainly those moments that you just never hope to experience at a track. And I hate it for the guys on the team and everything. And yeah, so there's clearly this doesn't have to be said, but yeah, that was certainly the case. So the rest of the race was run. It seemed like, I mean, it shook me a bit. I mean, it was, I think by the end of, I think it was not until about 40 laps to go in the race. They went back out on pit road and kind of tracked what was happening at the end. And it was exciting because, I mean, at least on that side, I knew my brother had picked the 11 to win the race. So that was kind of fun to do there. But yeah, I mean, I didn't have any other reports on what was going on with Gase, and I wasn't hearing anything come in. When the race had concluded and going back in the media center, and you had the NASCAR official come in to say that inspection was complete. I will give full credit here. One person was the first person to ask anything about Joey Gase was Bob Pockrass. He asked specifically if NASCAR was doing anything to investigate what was going on with the left rear wheel, why it had broken off. That was basically the response was like, well, we're going to look into it. And at that point, the guy, Pockrass was about 3 seats over from me on the other row. And then I asked him if there was any updates on Gase himself. And he basically shrugged. He didn't have any information on that. And, you don't know what that means. Now, at this point, rumors are going around, and there were other people, and I think they were, trying to, help the situation there and say, okay, well, look, it sounds like, they're saying, they say that he's okay. He's in good spirits. They say, oh, he's fine. He walked out of the car. I mean, by this point, I had already looked on YouTube to see the accident. That was the biggest thing to kind of drive home what happened. You could see he dropped the window net. The window net was dropped not by the driver, but by the medical personnel. You can see him put the steering wheel on there. So you knew it wasn't a situation like that. I'd already seen that by that point. So, thankfully it wasn't a situation there, but I mean, you just don't know anything beyond that. And yeah, it was challenging. It was challenging how to approach this. It's like, because you don't want to post anything that's, you kind of want to be non-committal, I would think. You don't want to go too far in one direction on the cup, is, if it's really a serious situation, you don't want to go out there and say, oh my gosh, this is, this is this and this is this. It's like, and then it turns out it's not, or you don't want to say, oh, it was nothing, and then maybe it turns out to be serious. So that was kind of, so that was kind of the situation there at that point. I was not told he was, I've seen your question there, Mark. No, I was not told he was taken to the hospital. I was just told, to take down the pictures. That's what I was told. And I left it at that. And I was like, okay, fair enough. And I didn't know about the hospital trip until I got back to the media center after that. That's when, the official word came through on the email there from NASCAR that he had been sent. And so at that point, the person I was with at the time, I told him, it's like, okay, this is why that happened. He's getting sent to the hospital. And it's like, I don't know what that means. It could be just evaluation or whatever. But thankfully it was, not as serious as it was. So then during all of this, and again, I don't know how widespread the concern was. It was really hard to read the room. You're always going to have people that are just, they're just going to focus on the win and that's it. You're going to have people that, are just, focusing on whatever their story is. It was hard to it was hard to read the room in that sense. I wouldn't say that it was a situation where everybody was thinking about it. Certainly the folks over at the Fox social media platform weren't thinking about it, or at least not in the appropriate sense. So yeah, here comes my thoughts on that. So the I don't like this whole social media warfare thing where it's like, you know how I feel about rules or that kind of mentality, because I think that's a big reason why social media is so toxic. But I have to say, when we're going to do a Phil Swift thing from Fox's report, when they have a picture of the window net still up. Now, okay, yeah, we know he's conscious. And there was some word that he had walked out of the car, but I didn't have any confirmation of that. Beyond who I was hearing about it. The fact that fit so neatly into the discussion we had on this show back after the Indianapolis wreck, where it's just like, oh my, look at what wreck was your favorite and all that stuff. And even by the other network. It made me think back. It made me think back to that same discussion. I don't think it was an exaggeration to say something about it. I mean, it's it was by that point, at the point that it was starting to be discussed, and I see now that the post has since been deleted, but it's still worth talking about. And as much as I don't like engaging in this because I think it's inherently ugly. I do think that it is another, as I posted, another perfect example of how casual and how cavalier some aspects of social media in particular have become about the dangers of this sport and how dangerous that really is. And okay, we have a driver. Joey Gase has had his number of serious accidents, and he's not one of the big names that's out there. But the dangers of the sport don't know that. And you can be in a situation just as easily if you're a big name or not. Dale Jr.'s concussion, stories are just one of many, examples of it, of the very serious consequences that he's faced in his own career as the sport's most popular driver. It could happen to anybody at any time. And everything there. So, and especially at the track where it must be said, where the Dan Welton accident did happen in the same corner. And then when the pictures were posted well after the fact, now this was not available at the time of the first immediately. I don't know when exactly those pictures were posted. I think it was later that night after we got back to the hotel, and it was clear just how serious the wreck was and how far airborne Gase's car had become. It just made it, I think it made it just even that much more appalling. So, I don't want this to simply be, like, oh, shame on you and just leave that there. But I do want to say that it is another symptom, I do believe, of I do think there's a cultural problem in the sport still. I put that in the same, it's in the same basket as the reaction to the, the cars getting airborne at the Indianapolis road course. It's in the same category as the Fox Truck Series crew not knowing how to handle the accident with Trey Hutchins and Johnny Sauter back at, what was that, Texas? Or Atlanta, or Charlotte. It was one of the quad ovals earlier this year, but goes into one of those categories of just another example of it here. And I do think that the sport does that at their own peril. They allow it, or they enable it at their own peril. I think that is very serious, and I think that that needs to be treated just as seriously as anything else. I'll applaud, people that were in there that were certainly concerned about it. Again, Pockrass, heck, the guy is, the Rosetta Stone of the sport. I mean, for Pete's sake, and he was very quick to mention Gase there once the NASCAR officials out there and trying to find more information on what's going on. And as to any possible investigation into the car, I have no idea. All I know is that in 1991, there was talk about an investigation into JD's wreck, at which point the car had been rushed out the back door, and the 15's hauler was definitely not there after that race was over with. So I don't know what's going on from here. Hopefully something gets found out. But we're in a situation here. I mean, now again, and I think it would be very easy for perhaps some in the sport to say, oh, well, this is why we need the single lug on the cars. Oh, this is why, almost taking a what does it matter approach or something. But it kind of does. We don't exactly know it was just loose lugs or anything. There was something that was off with that car. And clearly the team was concerned about it. They were trying to figure it out, and everything. So, yeah, it was another example of that. And it was sad to see it played out firsthand, because, again, it's still a dangerous sport. I don't care how much horsepower these cars have. I don't care if they're putting around there at like freeway speed. People lose their lives on the freeway all the time. It can be a very dangerous sport, and it doesn't take much for it to happen. We saw a pretty dramatic example of it in this. And again, I don't want to make too much on the one side, I don't want to make too much of it, because at the same time, I'm very relieved that Gase is okay. And I want to make it very clear that every reports I'm hearing, it sounds like he's recovering well. Thank you to Gase's PR group for making sure that statement was made. By the time that was already released by the time I even got to the parking lot after finishing the article. So I was able to provide some more information there. And I hope that in covering it, I hope I covered it appropriately, because this I will admit, this is probably the first situation I've had since really doing the media side of it where it's been close to something really serious actually happening during the race. And that was, again, that was kind of shocking. You never hope for it. You never expect it. But I do feel that if you want to cover this sport, you need to prepare for it, just in case. And I do believe that there's a section of it. Certainly, Fox's social media post showed there is a section of the sport that is not ready for it, and I think they need a serious attitude adjustment. And I don't know what it's going to take. And I shudder to think of what that would be. I think you just got to tell them. That I think, to its credit, as much as I seriously distaste social media outrage and these modern day galleon wars between social media accounts, I think they were right. I think they were right on the mark at this point. I do think they were. Yeah, I think I would almost go to the extent that Fox should actually say something about that, or internalize it, because they'll just, otherwise they'll just keep doing it. So yeah. So that was kind of my experience on that side of it there, and my thoughts on it. So, but again, first and foremost, glad to hear that there was positive news from Gase. Thanks to Josh Balicki as well for posting the first message there. That he was getting information that he was okay, and of course for Gase's team for finally providing the cooperation on that as well. And yeah, and again, there were other media members in there. Again, the other ones I was talking to that were, they were making it sound like it was really positive. I'm glad that that was ultimately proven true. So that was good too. So, but yeah, just on my own firsthand account, yeah, that was basically my, experience with it. And yeah, it's really, I mean, even in just doing my, thing there in the garage area, it's sometimes hard to appreciate how serious a certain accident is. But I'd already seen the replay of the accident by the time I went in the garage area, and so I knew, that's like, yeah, there's gonna be some significant damage. But I also knew that he had already been moving around in the car, so that it was good to have that information. I can't imagine how this was handled in a time period where you didn't have all that. But I think it makes it, that much more inexcusable when it's kind of treated in a more lackadaisical manner there. So that's certainly the case. Oh, iRacer CB, thank you for your super chat here as well. Hey, Brock, always love to hear your stories from when you do trackside coverage. Really unfortunate the way the Gase wreck turned out, though. Here's a $10 for some of the stress. Oh, no worries. No, I mean, no stress here. I mean, again, look, I don't want to. The biggest, well, first of all, I really appreciate the super chat. Thank you for that. It's appreciated as a super chat, and I do appreciate it. But I mean, from the media side of it, again, probably at a different point in my life, I would have probably crumbled into a situation like this, and not known what to do. Because at the end of the day, the media member can't be the story. You can't be the story. The story is Joey Gase. The story is the 15 team, and the story is what NASCAR and its cultural effect going forward. That's the important thing to really take from this, and I think that's hopefully what comes about from this. Do I have a lot of confidence that that's going to happen? Not really. No, I think a lot of the point system is set up in such a way that it's encouraging, really over aggressive driving, really spectacular accidents, and sensationalizing things to a degree where it's really not even about the racing, where if actual racing occurs, that's viewed as boring. Now, was this the most exciting race, in general? I mean, unless you're a Denny Hamlin fan, I guess you'll probably say that it wasn't. I know that from Jeff Gluck's poll, this is already ranked among the lowest in recent years. And, I can't, I mean, it's, if you're at the racetrack, every race is exciting. It's very different from watching it on TV. And I think that's a whole other part of the problem there too. But that's really, that's always really a different, kind of look there at the same time. So, I don't want to go round and round on that, but that's kind of my thoughts on that. So, but there was, that was very real. I was with the gentleman that was with at the time. It was the person I signed his, well, first of all, I thought that was kind of cool. I signed his VIP card there and all that. It still floors me when somebody asks, because I just it's like, what, me? You must be talking about somebody behind me. But that was really cool. That made my day. So I do appreciate it. And I appreciate him being there. He was actually with me when we were looking at the 15 car there too. So yeah, I think he got a little side of the, real, I think it maybe got a little bit real there too. So, I hope he's doing all right too. So if you're in the chat here, definitely let me know. But we had that was interesting. But yeah, it's there's real stakes out there, folks. These guys are it's a silly sport in so many ways. It can look silly. It can be, it's like, oh, they're just going in circles. Isn't that absurd? They just go left all day. It's just that. It's like, oh, I mean, I don't get a contract for driving to the grocery store, or every meme that's ever been around since everything and all that. That's always been the sport. But undeniably, whether you are aiming to be on the front page of of ESPN, or if you just end up on my site, you put your life on the line. And that's if you're a driver, if you're a crew member, if you're even the guys that get up on the lift gate to get the car pushed onto the hauler. There's a lot of dangers in the sport, and they do it for the love of it. And I think that there could be a lot of improvement. I think a lot of things that maybe are perceived to be, real problems in the sport, or things that aren't handled very well, would be handled better if that was appreciated a bit better. And, this might just have to be a thing that has to be brought up every week. I hope it doesn't. But we keep seeing examples of this, and that was certainly another one there. So, yeah, so that was kind of the behind the scenes of what was going on with that. So you get more context from what was going on there. So, gosh, well, let's see what else here. I mean, well, from there, I mean, yeah, the rest of the race. I mean, were we at a track record pace? It seemed like it was pretty fast. I mean, we had so few cautions. The average speed 144.643. I'm not sure if I mean it's less than 3 hours. It just whizzed right by. One thing I thought was kind of interesting. Well, a couple things. I mean, it's little things too that always kind of get me in the sport too. First person I saw go in the garage area after the cars, like right after the cars park on pit road, was Daniel Suarez. He was like in a dead sprint. And I actually thought he was doing a decent job. He was actually, I thought he was going to get maybe a top 10 out of it for the Trackhouse guys. And I was like, oh, it's going to be kind of cool. So I was kind of following him for a quote, and he was very brief, and I ultimately didn't use it in the article. I mean, he wasn't impolite. I don't want to be, saying that, but I mean, clearly he was just, he basically just said, we have to do better. And that was just it. So, but hey, the guy wants more. He's still trying to get that first win this year, probably putting a lot of pressure on himself. So hopefully he's doing all right there too. That's another aspect of it. The other side of it there too, actually kind of the thing again, I mentioned this on Twitter when JJ Yaley dropped out of the race, after what had been really a really frustrating weekend for him. I can't imagine. I mean, he had the ECR engine, and getting the wreck in the Xfinity race, and then he gets in the Cup car, and there's some kind of weird issue with the spindle, and he has to drop out at, not even before the halfway point. First thing JJ did is he went back over to the 66 hauler, and he brought out a bag of ice cream sandwiches, and he tossed them up to the stands in the second deck of the Neon Garage. I wish I had a picture of it because it happened so quick. He just came out there with a big clear plastic bag of them there. And then he went back and got more, and he gave me one as he brought more out for the lower level guys because they had like the autograph windows out there. So again, I hope JJ gets some more fans after people watch the show because he's really a decent guy. So, and it doesn't get talked about that much, and I hope that comes across in some of the interviews here. I can't play favorites, but I will admit that it seems like more times than not, whether it's in the Xfinity series or the Cup series or wherever. It seems like we're always crossing paths with the guy there. So he was pretty cool. Good ice cream sandwiches, too. I forgot that the number one rule with ice cream sandwiches, you got to wait for it to melt a little bit. Otherwise, it's trying to bite into an iceberg. But very good. Fat Boy ice cream sandwiches. Definitely, if they're interested in the sponsorship on this side, too, hit me up. So there's that. So definitely kudos there, too. But yeah, so that was, I mean, gosh, what else? Let's see, what else we have from here? I'm just looking at the lineup. Oh, I just noticed Suarez is just one spot ahead of Bubba Wallace there too. So the new team's still racing each other out there. Other competitors, Byron seemed like he was really aggressive out there. He kind of did a lot of good dive bombs at the start there. Obviously coming back from the, he was one of the guys who was the tail end, right? Yeah, he was one of the tail end guys. So coming up through the field there. Let's see. Oh gosh, the other JJ Yaley thing. Gosh, I'm probably turn this into the Yaley show. That was the other thing. It was a hoot. Like I was for the Xfinity race. I already tweeted this, but I have to mention it again because it was so funny. I was out on pit road, and I was getting a picture of Yaley there because I was doing all the cars and stuff, and I got down to the 17, and he was in front of Spencer Boyd's car. And JJ was like, "Hey, you got the last car guy." It's like, "You want last car? You got to talk to the last place guy over there." And Spencer Boyd was in earshot. He was just laughing him off there. And so I had to take a picture of the 90 right after. So that shot of Boyd is like right after he said that. So you got that on there too. That's definitely one that was a fun moment. So actually, when it was right before pre-race ceremonies, of course. So basically, when I was standing there, I was kind of standing between the two cars there for that. For the Cup Series race, I ended up standing next to the 52 for Bilecki, since he seems to be one of the lap traffic competitors that's just trying to make ends meet. Didn't speak to him this weekend, but I have in the past there. I remember touching bases with him when he was trying to figure out what was going on with the bike effort before he ended up at some of these other programs and finally ending up over Rick Ware Racing. We'll see what he can do. He's got a gorgeous car this weekend. Have you seen the Smokey and the Bandit paint scheme he's going to run at Talladega? It's something about the 52. It just really, really pops really well too. So that was good to see. Carson Ware was another guy I talked to this weekend. I talked to him on pit road to get more information on the Jimmy Means situation because it was interesting. Much like a throwback race to the West Coast, Means' effort didn't actually make the trip. It was actually a Rick Ware Toyota with the 52, which of course is a Rick Ware number, and Carson driving it there. So I guess helping Means in the owner points. I didn't see Jimmy at the track. I was getting some questions about that coming in. I believe Arca Start and Park Car was talking to me about that. But yeah, it had Rick Ware Racing badging on it, a Richard Childress dashboard on it, and it was loaded on the same hauler as the 52, which is right near where the 15 was. So you had that kind of deal there as well. Where did he even finish? Did he? I think he finished a bit up in the order there. 31st place on that one. Electrical issues there towards the end of the race there. I guess he was the highest ranking one that failed to finish the race there. So unfortunate situation for him there in that case, but at least some motor points there for Means at a time where, again, they're still looking for sponsorship for the last part of the season. We'll see if things turn around for them at Talladega, where Joey Gase himself had that great run just a few years ago. That was interesting. The other thing was cool was Carson. He and Cody kind of remind me of my brother and myself. Like they're competitive, but they really do have each other's backs. So that was cool to see too. So Carson's a good kid. Hope to catch up with him more on that too. I thought it was cool when he held his. I should have asked about him holding his line at Darlington because I thought that was pretty hip. But that was kind of different too. Because he had that. What was that? Was when Denny Hamlin was trying to lap him and he just kind of held his spot there. That was pretty cool. Different stories that always come up from time to time. Alrighty. Let's see here. I'm just kind of going over your chat here to get some other questions from you guys. That's pretty much more of the from the trip there. So so basically, I mean the rest of the race there, finished the article there, was relieved to get the news on Gase basically after I packed up there at that point. Got back to the car there. We headed out the next morning. We decided to stay the extra night there because there's no hotels in the immediate area. Lots of crazy stuff on the road back there. There's that Area 51 gift shop that's probably about an hour or 2 hours outside of Vegas. That was kind of a hoot. They actually had more tourist traps on that stretch of road heading back to Northern California here. We checked that out. That was cool. The ghost town in Bodie, that was really exciting. Last Bro's been trying to check that out for years. We decided to link that up to the trip there. And luckily we got there about 2 hours before the park closed. So we had enough time to really kind of explore that area. Definitely recommend it if you haven't checked that out. A lot of pictures I posted on the Twitter account there as well. So you can check those out. But definitely something that I would recommend, probably much like the Mob Museum. I would recommend taking like at least an afternoon to kind of check that out, because it's, first of all, amazing how remote it is. Like you get from this one road that's paved, and then suddenly the pavement stops, and you got to run that like another 3 miles. You're going up in the hills, and then suddenly around this one corner, and you start seeing houses. You get all these worn out houses, and it's just the creepiest thing. But it's so fascinating, and they give you like a guide. And there's like 50 different markers of like they can pinpoint like whose houses these were, and just great stuff. I mean, I see why they close it at 6 o'clock, because I imagine at the middle of the night that's got to be like probably one of the spookiest places out there, because you are completely off the grid at that point. Certainly no cell reception, and it's fascinating, very fascinating. So we did that. We grabbed dinner on the way back, and we got back here 10:30 last night here to put a pin in that. And since then, already started kind of working on plans to cover the Phoenix race for the finale here, and getting that together, getting ready to start over and do it all again. So for those of you joining in the show late, I haven't given away the magnet yet. I'm going to post a short video on the Twitter account at Last Car on Brock and give that away to get that going. I have a couple of little goodies to throw in with that as well. So we'll have that going there too. So that was kind of the whole thing here. Blake Thiemann, thanks for joining in. We're about an hour and a half into the show here too. Thank you, Yo-Yo, for your comment. I see you there. I appreciate it. Let's see. But yeah, a little bit. Yeah, we had a little bit of everything from this from this whole weekend. But there's always yeah, lots more to take back from, and a lot more to build up there. So again, big thanks to everyone that was in the Patreon for first of all making that possible. We had a lot of people join up during this weekend, got to write their names in. Yeah, I even got a PayPal donation from one person that that was that I really do appreciate too. That was very helpful and very unexpected. And I really appreciate that as well. I actually had a good video idea too that I'm actually going to put in the line there as well. So that'll be really cool. And even with that, we're actually before I forget, now that we got Talladega week coming up, as the Patreon voted on, I'm going to do my next starting grid video on the Talladega Cup race this next Sunday. So for the second, I think it's the second year in a row that we've done this one. So that'll be cool. And we're already halfway to the next mark to do yet another starting grid video. So if you want a couple more at the end of this year, I've now made it so that, of course, there's only so many races at the end of this year. If we reach that next Patreon goal, it'll be any Cup, Xfinity, or Truck Series race either at the end of this year or all of next year. Now the Cup, we have the Cup Series schedule. I guess we don't have the Xfinity or trucks yet, but we got that coming together. So if we reach that goal, anybody that's in the Patreon will be able to vote on which one I do. And of course, that poll led us to Talladega for this week. So look forward to that. Probably get that posted on Saturday. That'll probably be the case, like probably Saturday afternoon thereabouts, depending on the timing. And from there, we got other videos coming up for the channel to get done before Phoenix, and the next episode of the Field Fillers will be coming together on Hermie Sadler. So many other things coming up. One big thing from the weekend I want to make clear as well. That can't forget this. My goodness. So one thing that I did on Sunday, yeah, I got to the track earlier on Sunday, and I ran into Rick Houston over at the Scene Vault podcast. And if Rick's watching, certainly really appreciated talking with him. He was doing a live episode of the Scene Vault, interviewing Daryl Waltrip. They did a great job setting that up over in the Neon Garage. They had a nice crowd reaction there. So that was cool. And Rick and I ended up talking. We were trying to set up meeting for something over the weekend. He actually reached out to me when we first got into Vegas on Friday, and we had a great conversation talking about that. There's so much that man has been working through here between trying to get the NASCAR scene actually published online. Of course, a lot of you that have followed the show there, how difficult that's been with all the different potholes in the road that's been. And of course, his effort with Marcus Lemonis and the number of miles that he logged running at the same time. He was just kind of just sharing a lot of his stories of that. And I appreciated him talking to me about that. And if you are, if you're interested in supporting them, I think the biggest thing I really took from our discussion is that, yeah, they still very much need any help that they can get in trying to get that catalog going and keep those interviews going. Rick may have that new show on the Dirty Mo Media, but he is still very much working on trying to keep that Scene Vault going. He and Steve Wade over there as well. So if you forgive the plug here in the middle of the show here, definitely great guy, great group over there. And, I think it's still the only Patreon I'm actually supporting. So that's one I've really enjoyed there as well. So great content out there. The Hut Strickland interview and the Hatman Bill Broderick, I understand, is coming up very soon. And also on top of that, one reason that Rick was there as well is he became part of the new NASCAR Legends program that Vegas is putting together, and there's going to be an interview with Mark Martin that's going to come from that. So some very exciting episodes coming up on his show to go there as well. So that was really cool too. So that kind of it was kind of interesting. Yeah, we had some good interviews along the way, and meeting up with a lot of people. Meeting people at the track and meeting people in the industry and everything. And it was cool. It was cool. I got a lot to build from here into the next race and into the off season that should complement stuff that you see on this channel as well. And I hope you look forward to checking that out here in the days, weeks that are ahead. Blake, yes, I did see Eric Estep. I mentioned him a little earlier in the show. Um, much to Eric probably would rather he not have seen me at the time, but no, he's really cool. It's the second time I met him. I met him at Fontana right before COVID last year, and this is my first time seeing him since. He and Darian over at Black Flags Matter there were both there for the sponsorship on the 51. It's unfortunate they finished next to last when I ran into him coming to the garage area. He's like, I shouldn't have talked to you, he said. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. That wasn't me. That wasn't me. It's like, he didn't finish it last. You still got to the garage area before the 07s. You're good. So that was, I mean, he was cool about it. He was really cool about it. There's a lot of good, content creators and YouTube and everything that are making content on NASCAR, and they all have different approaches and different specialties and different things they're interested in. And that can only help the sport. The more people talk about it, the better it's going to be. So seeing, especially seeing a sponsorship, I mean, they gave him a pretty good sized logo there. He was saying like he was going over there to make sure the logo was straight. It definitely was. They gave him a good space on the car. Even after the wreck, it was still in pretty good shape. So I don't know if he's going to get a piece off the car. I hope he does. That would be pretty. I know I would ask for it if it were me. Is there going to be a last car one day? I don't know. I'm not sure if that's in my budget, but we'll find out one of these days down the road. So I'm not sure if a team's going to really want that on there, but who knows? Who knows? Stranger things have certainly happened. But that was pretty hip. GP laps got to get up to New Hampshire. That would be pretty hip. I would be okay doing it. We're starting to look at things for next year. For those of you pretty new to the stream here, appreciate you tuning in. First of all, I know it's a different day and it's days after the Vegas race here, so it's not as certified fresh as our usual shows here, but I appreciate you tuning in. We're going to be doing Phoenix for the finale. Again, tightening up some details on that to get that going. Then we're looking at the Clash at the LA Coliseum. We're a California-based website, and that's certainly come in handy in that case, so we're aiming for that. And we had already planned on returning to the Auto Club Speedway after that race was scrubbed last year, which will be our return to that track for the first time since 2020 for what's expected to be the last race on the large oval before they convert that track over. So definitely looking to be part of that. So in very short order, if you like the trackside coverage you got this past weekend, we're going to have a lot more to that. And we're going to have another magnet, one for Phoenix and one also that's going to be for both the Clash and for the Fontana race this February. So if you want to get your name on the side of the car and ride along with us, that opportunity will absolutely be there. And you'll be entered in the drawing that we're going to, like the one we're going to have after the show here tonight for the magnet itself. So big thanks everyone again for your support on that. Let's see here. So let me get on here. Okay. So I'll do, let's see. You guys want to do some trivia? If you're up for it, if you're on the long haul here, I know we've already been up here for about, oh gosh, we're almost up to 2 hours. This has been quite the show. Well, there's a lot of ground to cover. It certainly was. So I definitely want to jump into that. We'll do some trivia questions for those of you guys who like to stick around here. If you have any other questions from the weekend or anything I missed on here, definitely feel free to ask, and I'll answer those as best as I can. Let's see. Oh, Ben, I didn't see you in the chat. Hey, thanks for joining up here. There we go. Yeah. So again, those of you who are late to the show, expecting my dog here, he was kind of fidgety. I think he needed to pee. So I apologize. He's not on the show right now. But if you cue this video all the way back to the beginning, he is there. This is not clickbait. He's absolutely in the video. Now, yeah, if you just want to see the dog, it's in the first minute of the show. So he is there. So don't worry about that. But yeah, we'll do some trivia questions here to wrap the show up here tonight. All right. I did bring this with me to Vegas. I wasn't sure how many people. I had 3 or 4 people reach out to me to meet up there. So again, kudos to the folks that came out there. Luckily I scheduled the thing out front right before the gates opened, so that seemed to work out pretty well. So we had some people there, and then met the other gentleman there on pit road. during that. So very cool. I always have time to meet up with people there, and it's cool to do that. Actually, shoot, I ran into gosh, the guy from Sears Point also. It was at the Kevin Harvick signing. So yeah, there's a lot. Last Carnation isn't very big, but you guys are dedicated. I do appreciate it. So there we go. Anyway, so the categories again are NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Those are your categories. Once again, they are NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Those are your questions. Thank you, Ben. I just saw your message there. So yes, I'll go ahead and mention this again here. So again, those of you coming in late, I have a couple bonus articles here on top of the ones I did for the Cup, Xfinity, and Trucks from this past weekend. Our own guest contributor Ben Schneider in the chat here tonight has an article on I almost did it again, ARCA Menard Series West race on the Las Vegas Bull Ring. And then our staff writer William Saki has a feature on the Long Beach IndyCar finale and last place battle in that as well. So you'll have some bonus content here. There. And then this coming Thursday will be our entry list storylines for Talladega and the very stacked White Knuckle weekend that's coming up very soon. So look forward to all of that and much more in the days here ahead. Yeah, I was looking at your comment there, WF Hornet. Yeah, I like Fontana. It's very hard to get to the media center, though. It's probably the hardest one to get to. It's way over in turns 1 and 2, in turn 1 at the entrance. But the problem is the only way to get into the infield basically is to get all the way over to the exit of turn 4. And knowing how big, I mean, it's a 2-mile oval, so you got to get in the tunnel, up this ramp, and then zigzag back in, and then go the entire length. That entire, you've seen those old ESPN shots of how long that garage area is at Fontana. You got to go that entire length of it, and it's way over in the corner there. Yeah, that's one tricky thing. I don't know if that's going to change when they reconfigure the place. It looks like they're just kind of building it around that, so maybe it won't. But yeah, more tunnels would probably be at least one more tunnel. So yeah, that would probably be kind of one thing to look at. All right. Just the regular green dew. We couldn't find, I guess Code Red is also something in short supply here. So he's got the green dew here tonight. We have a tie for drivers and wild card, 3 for 3. Okay. So let's see. Maybe we'll do just a couple of each here. Let's do some drivers to lead off. And we'll go from there. So first question for the night. Who was the NASCAR Busch Series champion for 1997? Who was the NASCAR Busch Series champion for 1997? Don't look it up. Who was the NASCAR Busch Series champion for 1997? Got to go to Oregon for tourist traps. I see your comment there, Ross Chastain fan. I watched the history guy had a really good video on tourist traps, and I was fully expecting. I was expecting like, oh boy, we got to stop here. We got to stop here. I want to go to the world's largest museum of the world's smallest models of the world's largest things. Like that sounds amazing. But it wasn't on this stretch. But the Area 51 thing almost completely made up for that. That was really crazy. That was really crazy. And I do have, yeah, that was definitely the way that was. There you go. All righty. We got several votes for Randy LaJoy, and the answer indeed is Randy LaJoy. Randy LaJoy. Always good to talk with the LaJoys in this context here. All righty. Here's a good one. Okay, here we go. What 80s year did Darrell Waltrip inch by Richard Petty for his second Atlanta win? We're looking for a year here. What 80s year did Darrell Waltrip inch by Richard Petty for his second Atlanta win? What 80s year did Darrell Waltrip inch by Richard Petty for his second Atlanta win? Oh, you got Livewire, Ben? Oh, man. Jealous. I tried the fruit punch one. That wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. I know that was just temporary, but yeah. Last Bro likes the voodoo. He really likes that one a lot. We got some of that on the way down. So there you go. Alrighty. What 80s year did Darrell Waltrip inch past Richard Petty for his second Atlanta win? The year is 1982. 82. iRacer CB. I think you were the first one to that one. WF Hornet, are you serious? The cat thing? Oh my goodness. We were just in Gettysburg when we did our Darlington trip in 2019. I must have missed that one. Gettysburg is incredible. That one, you pretty much need the entire day to see that. That's just massive. Good restaurants there too, I gotta say. All right. Okay, next question. Who won Nashville's four-car Superstar Showdown in 1988? Civil War Tales at the Homestead Museum. That's okay. That's a new one. We got when we finished going around the battlefield, it was pretty much dark. The only thing I think was open at the time was the Friendly's ice cream. And we went there because they used to sponsor Derek Cope, so I figured that was kind of a cool way to wrap that up. But yeah, no, I didn't see the cat thing though. That sounds incredible. Who won Nashville's four-car Superstar Showdown in 1988? Yeah, that's a tricky one. Nashville's four-car Superstar Showdown in 1988. All right, we got guesses for DW, Hamilton, Wallace, Marlin, Martin, Rusty. All righty. And the answer is indeed the late, great Bobby Hamilton. Bobby Hamilton. Maserati 9, you were the first on that one. Right on. Okay, let's do some wild card ones since that was the second best category here. Oh, I think we had this one before, but I'll do it again because I don't entirely remember the answer. What racing animals does Todd Bodine raise on his North Carolina farm? What racing animals does Todd Bodine raise on his North Carolina farm? What racing animals does Todd Bodine raise, on his North Carolina farm? All right, we get guesses for horses and llamas and racing pigeons. Oh, I like that one. You're thinking outside the box. That's good. Greyhounds, probably horses. I'll read it one more time. What racing animals does Todd Bodine raise on his North Carolina farm? And the answer is quarter horses. It's going for a specific type, quarter horses. Yeah, I am not the most knowledgeable. Oop, there it goes into focus. I'm not the most knowledgeable of equine biology, so I'm trying to remember. I mean, quarter horses, is that like the ones that pull the carts, or I gotta look that one up. I don't know what a quarter horse is. Oh, it's a breed. American quarter horse. It's two words. It's just one word on here. AQH. Okay. American quarter horse. This is American breed of horse. This is sprinting short distances. Okay. Oh, there you go. They clocked at speeds of up to 44 miles per hour, at least according to Wikipedia. Okay. Well, learn something new today. Well, there you go. All right. What pro football team does Jeff Bodine cheer for? What pro football team? Bodine questions today. They're on the wild card. What pro football team does Jeff Bodine cheer for? By the way, congratulations to the Bills for beating the ever-loving snot out of the Washington football team. That's the way to do it. We're getting ready for the transition from the NASCAR championship into the NFL here as we as the seasons change as always. But we're getting there. Got to be Bills. Well, it has to be. I mean, there's one right answer, and then there's all the other wrong ones. I mean, here we go. What pro football team does Jeff Bodine cheer for? Is the question. And we got guesses for Panthers, Jets, Bills, Giants, Packers. The answer is the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys. America's team or America's supposed team? Dallas Cowboys. Go figure. Would not have guessed. Yeah, would not. Yeah, that makes no sense. New York literally has 3 teams, 2 teams, 3 teams. They got you got the Jets, you got the Giants, you got the Bills, and it's like, nah, Cowboys. Okay, well, that's a hard one. All right. What model of Plymouth did Richard Petty run from 1962 to 1963? What model of Plymouth did Richard Petty run from 1962 to 1963? Yeah, it had to be Bills. I think I saw Brett Bodine at the track at Vegas. I think I saw him on the escalator, but we were going opposite directions. That would have made that would have been a difficult interview. Let's see. What model of Plymouth did Richard Petty run in 1962 to 63? I should have told him. I definitely got to talk to him one of these days and see if I can find a connection between him and Carl Long, because like it's all in all the other episodes of the field fillers. I was really looking for one. I was really looking for one. At least maybe like Brett Bodine bumped him out of a field or something. Like maybe that would happen. Still couldn't find. I'm sure I could find one. It's probably going to at least be 5 degrees of separation, but it'd be satisfying if it was like immediately like that. Fury, Belvedere, Savoy. What model of Plymouth did Richard Petty run 1962 to 63? The answer is the Savoy. How's running 9? You're all over it. Charles Pearson with the Fury. I thought you were right. That sounded like it. Oh, here we go. Here's the ultimate question. Probably had this one too, but I like it too much, so I'm going to read it again. Who qualified, started 32nd, and finished 19th out of a field of 38 in a Volkswagen? I'll read that again. Who qualified, started 32nd, and finished 19th out of a field of 38 in a Volkswagen? Don't look it up. Try to guess. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. Yep. See? Oh, okay. That one's a stumper. Who qualified, started 32nd, and finished 19th out of a field of 38 in a Volkswagen? All righty, we got John Sears, Curtis Turner, Tim Flock. Got a few. Qualified, started 32nd and finished 19th out of a field of 38 in a Volkswagen. I had 4 wrong answers tonight. This makes it 5. Oh, you never know. All righty, I'll read it one more time here for the folks in the back. Who qualified, started 32nd, and finished 19th out of a field of 38 in a Volkswagen? The answer is Dick Hagee. Dick Hagee. There you go. Yeah, no year, no track. Very difficult question. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Was it 60s, 70s, 50s? I mean, heck, could be the first race ever run. Well, maybe 38 cars, but yeah. Dick Hagee. Okay, here we go. We're gonna have to do this now. We're gonna have to do this. We're gonna have to get Dick Hagee's. Now we are gonna look it up. We're gonna get the racing reference page up, and we are going. Okay, it's not showing up. Okay, well that can't be right. I think we did. We might have done this before. Let's see. Okay. All right. Let me put in Dick. Does it come up as? Probably wasn't. Maybe it wasn't. Okay. Dick Healy. Dick Hagee. Okay, it's spelled with Hagey. It's spelled with Haggy here. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Let's see if it shows up here. Hang on. Here we go. There it is. All righty. Started 32nd, finished 19th. June 21st, 1953 in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, home of Andy Belmont. And Dick Hagee started 32nd, finished 19th in the number 18 Volkswagen, finished, it doesn't have the lap counting, just shows people in the money in the top 10. Did he finish ahead of, oh gosh, I thought he finished ahead of Ralph Earnhardt for a sec here. Maybe he did. Finished ahead of Buck Baker. There you go. Here you go, folks. Haggy. Yeah, it was a mistake. It says Hagey here. Oh, Charleston, you should have put on safe search, buddy. Yeah, try racing reference or driver averages first. I wouldn't use Google. Dick Rathman took the win. Oh my goodness. There's also Dick Allwine in the 6th spot in the 1953 Jaguar, highest finishing Jaguar. These International 200 races are pretty awesome. These must have been really fun to see. If they really want to do the Clash like really proper, you probably have a bunch of foreign manufacturers in it now on the stadium track. Probably be closer to what we had here at Langhorne. There's some Porsches. Oh, dude, this rules. Yeah. I mean, you have maybe it looks like maybe a third of a cup field, and then you have all these other weird cars in here. I mean, I know I'm familiar with the one where you had the Tucker in the field, and then they had you had the Jaguars and the other stuff at the Linden, New Jersey airfield, so they handled the corners better than the stock cars. But yeah, really interesting. Well, there you go. Yeah. The Clash should just be random 2-door foreign cars. That would be something else. That's a good one. All righty. Yeah, let's see. We'll do one more question here and probably wrap up for the evening here. All righty. Last question for the evening, folks. We'll do one more here in the wrap up for tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Here comes the question. What tender age was Bill Elliott when he started racing? Don't look it up. We're looking for a number. What tender age was Bill Elliott when he started racing? Hey, Sir Wrinklestein. Welcome back. You are just in time for the last question of the evening here, but you have a more than 2-hour show to catch up on here afterwards. What tender age was Bill Elliott when he started racing? All right, we have guesses for 8 and 18 and 17 and 5. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't say whether it's cup racing or just racing in general. So, again, the wording of the question has now made it challenging. What tender age was Bill Elliott when he started racing? The answer is 16. 16 is the correct answer. Into focus, the angle, and there we go. 16. When he first started, yeah, I didn't either. This I assume it's probably his first cup start. His first cup start at that age? Let's take a look. We'll go on the old racing reference here again and find out. Yeah, first cup race at 19. First Xfinity race at 27. First truck race at 40. That tells the story right there. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, just started racing in general. So, he was only... Okay, so he'd only been racing for 3 years before he made his first cup attempt in 1975. So, yeah, well, there you go. A different time there. So there's one to look at there too. Yeah, 16-year-olds in ARCA now. Yeah, I don't think nobody got it. Yeah, nobody got it. Wow, another stumper too. So some challenging ones. Well, okay, well that will do it for the show here tonight, folks. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and particularly for following along here this weekend in Las Vegas. I hope you enjoyed it. There's much more of it to come. Our next trackside coverage is going to be Phoenix in November for the finale, but you don't have to wait that long for another one of these streams. The next one of these streams is going to be this next Sunday, pending weather conditions, of course, after the Cup Series race at Talladega and the hotly anticipated White Knuckle weekend. That'll be the next round race for the round of 12 for the Cup Series, and a doubleheader with the Xfinity and Truck Series on Saturday is going to make for quite a bit of stories from there. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and find out all together. So we'll be back here to talk about that. Check out the website, lastcar.info. The Patreon is patreon.com/lastcaronbrock. And my Twitter feed, of course, is at lastcaronbrock. Stay tuned after the show here on my Twitter feed. I'll post the giveaway for the magnet from the door after the Vegas trip. And we'll go from there. So have a great night, everyone. And we'll see you on Sunday.